For how intentional loading black and white film is, we don't always understand our own intentions in consciously cutting out color. And this is especially true for someone like me, who's mainly going off of gut rather than technicality. It's like my brain catches up after the fact and goes, wait, why did I even do that? And because of questions like these, I've forced myself to work with a lot of black and white over the last few years. And I've shot my way to the answers to some of those questions. But behind each one of those answers seems to just be more questions, which is probably why I'm only growing more intrigued by the use of black and white in a world where we don't have to. Black and white has become an entire mindset to me at this point. Because it requires you, it literally forces you to think differently. Because, well, we don't live in black and white. And just like there are times where you don't really know why you've chosen this direction, there are also times where you know black and white is the only direction. Stumbling upon this place was one of those really obvious times for me. Even though I'm taking away the rather stunning colors from these scenes, the use of black and white ends up adding to the scenes by making them actually feel old and antiquated, not just look it. In this case, the medium helps push the story already in the scene. Black and white in a place like this will make it feel that much more desolate, that much further away, that much more frozen in time, that much more still. The stillness of a place like this is completely mesmerizing to me. Items left untouched all over the place, moments literally frozen before me. And all the while, the hot desert sun's been going up and down and up and down and up and down over and over again. And just like this place, I wanted the images of it to feel frozen in time. And black and white can do that unlike color ever could. Color shots just have a certain aliveness to them. And trust me, I'm not saying that black and white imagery lacks life, but black and white images do immediately feel like a distant memory. If color shots were a moment lived, then black and white shots are a moment gone. That's that inherent nostalgia so often talked about with black and white imagery. So choosing black and white to capture this town made really all the sense in the world. And choosing instant film was no accident either. I chose it because of the focus and the speed required to shoot it. You can see just how long even just a couple of shots can take while shooting instant film. And it might even seem silly, but there's quite a bit to line up. Finding your shot is one thing, double, maybe even triple checking your settings before you use a precious frame is another, and then steadying to finally actually make the print is most definitely another. There is no shortage of interesting things to photograph here, but I only have a pack and a half to play with, so I had no choice but to be incredibly precious with each and every frame. But this part is such an underrated part of the photographic process. All the looking and observing in between the making. And since this sign is what initially caught my eye from the road, I knew I wanted to walk away with a frame or two of it. So I wandered around it a bit to find some interesting texture or color, and I thought that the cacti could be a really nice foreground element. And then once I saw the sign straight on, and I saw the way the T actually had a border around it, unlike the other letters, I wanted to capture that with detail with another angle where you could see it a bit clearer. And because it was awfully bright out and I wanted to nail the contrast, this is one of the images I shot with manual settings. Because I wasn't shooting at ideal times for light, I chose a Polaroid I-2 for these images so that I could do this very thing and control my settings to ensure I wasn't wasting film. I also wanted to take advantage of the incredibly sharp lens this camera has, and it was a good chance to test out their new black and white film formula myself. The inside of this chapel ended up providing a new perspective to some of what I had already seen. The windows provided really satisfying natural frames and very beautiful patterns of light throughout the interior. It was also quite nice to give my images a break from the heat and sun and let them process in the shade. I had been fairly worried with how hot the day was ending up, but to my surprise, not one of these shots ended up discolored. And I don't know if this has to do with the new chemistry, but I'm impressed. This new film is a 650 speed monochromatic film and has much deeper contrast and a true and consistent black and white tone. The difference in the new formula was starting to really be obvious to me, and I wanted to shoot more of it. So I loaded up the I-2 again for yet another quick adventure. This time, a staycation. Before retreating up into my hotel room for approximately 18 hours, I used a few frames down in the chaos of humanity in the lobby. I love the I-2 because it allows me to do things like slow the shutter down manually. I headed outside to try the same concept out there. Slow down the shutter so the people become blurry, keep the rest of the scene intact. The hardest part is just waiting for the right moment. To be totally honest, that was enough people for me for a day. So into my room I went, where I had some fun and tested still life photos for quite a while. Once I discovered the light in the bathroom, I immediately started scheming up a self-portrait idea. Oh, it worked. I don't like my creepy smile though. Okay, huge fail. Oh, pasta and wine sounds insane. Oh, they have bucatini amatriciana. Put it in the bag, put it in the bag. I still wanted to try and nail a self-portrait while I was here, but A few orders of business first.
So many commercials.
Now that I feel like a new woman, I'm ready to tackle a self-portrait or two before bed. I popped the I-2 into timer mode and situated myself on the side of the bed where the bedside lamp would be my key source of light off to my side. What proved to be the hardest thing, as it usually does with self-portraits, was getting the focus right. Oh, I'm just barely out of focus. Composition's killer. But my hair's in focus and my face is not, so I'm just slightly back focused.
Whoa.
With this shot, I felt pretty satisfied and I felt like I could move on. This little corner that had been gathering my last few images was the perfect natural still life to represent my night in this hotel room. And just like that, it was time for bed. The idea was to wake up early since my room was likely to catch some of the desert's gorgeous golden sunrise.
I love it so much, but I hate that I put my hands in front of my stomach because now there's just like a big circle coming out of my like abdomen. Who does that remind me of? In Game of Thrones. So part of me wants to reshoot this, but there's actually not much more of the reflection I'm getting off of the Encore building into my wall. But there is just enough. Do I use another frame on this? No, I'm just gonna leave it. Something that really helps me in moments like this is I try and look at it not as the photographer of it, right? Which can be hard, but once you do it, it gets easier. I look at this as if somebody else took it. A photographer I admire. They took this, and I would look at that, and I honestly love that because it's a shadow, I don't know what I'm looking at. But if this was someone else's photo, I would look at it and think that person is holding a mug. And suddenly I'm not so mad about it. And suddenly I'm going, oh, how cool that the shadow is creating some mystery and some holes for the mind to fill in. To anybody else, it looks like somebody drinking their morning coffee in a really sunlit room. The shadow's back. Should we shoot a tighter one? We got good sun and it's not gonna be long. Okay, it's not gonna last long. We're gonna do that. Okay, almost out of the shadow. So scary every time. That's gonna come out. That's gonna work. That looks really good. Whoa. I was not expecting that to look so good.
Turns out all those self-portraits last night were just to prep for this one. I might have to use this one for something special one day, don't you think? One of my favorite things about black and white, and honestly instant film too, is you might not always get exactly what you planned for, but that means it could turn out even better than you ever imagined. Anybody want to do a grain check or?